a big problem here is the controversial of how much water do we put in the urban areas and how much water do we use in the rural areas. For example, rural areas use a lot of water to produce, but for example in Bolivia there was a big issue about how much water do we put in the urban areas, because people in the urban areas said we need water, it's important for us to have water in the city. But the people of the rural areas, that are the people more poor, they said if we don't have water, we can't produce. So there was a big issue, and I don't know if you heard that in 2000 there was a big kind of a war in Bolivia with water, with this kind of issue. So that thing here is still a controversy between how we do to manage water for the urban areas and water for the rural areas.
Just a second question, Lee. Thanks for that. Just a second question, quickly leading on to that, was in terms. Someone mentioned that you had a lot of water, but we were also wondering in terms of the quality of water. How is the quality of water there, and is there issues surrounding that as well?
Here in Zamorano, the quality of water is very good. I mean, because the water comes from a natural source, from the Yucca, that is the area that Zamora conservates. So we have a pretty good quality of water, and we as the university periodically we make a lot of tests, a lot of practice with this water to see how this water is managed here. So we have a pretty good quality of water here in Zamorano. Thank you.
Thank you guys. If anybody else would like to have a question for Zamorano as well, now is the time to ask. You can put your board up for question and we'll give you the chance to speak.
Anybody? Questions to Zamorano? I think with the camera we can move the camera.
Anyone's got any questions?
Oh. If you want.
No? Okay. How have we got time to move on? Alright, then we might ask a couple of questions. What else do we Okay, how do you feel about water pricing in terms of a way to manage the allocation between rural users and, say, city users?
Could you give us that again? I didn't hear part of the question.
Okay, so how do you feel about water pricing in terms of a measurement tool, not a measurement tool, a management tool, the use of water between rural and urban users, and how do they actually pay?
So you're the term water crossing.
Yeah, exactly.
Pricing. Money.
Pricing. Cost.
The price of water.
The cost of water for the urban area versus the cost for the rural area.
Okay, go ahead.
So me as Bolivian, I'm not quite sure about prices of water here, but I know that water in the urban areas is more expensive than water here. Why? Because in the rural areas there's people get out the water practically from the rivers, and in urban areas you have a whole system to water. So urban areas have more expensive prices of water that have rural areas.
Just to give an idea, a rule of thumb here is 100 times. Rural water is 100 times less expensive than city water.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on.
All right, so thanks a lot for that, Zamorano. Now we're going to move on to Earth University, and you're going to be talking about representing urban dwellers who face large increases in the price of water and restrictions on its use as water security issue rises and there's more stress on the availability of water in the world. Thank you.
Oath University, did you hear us? It's your turn.
Like who? Us?
Can everyone else hear us?
Can everyone else hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah? Earth University, can you hear us?
Hello.
No?
They're just like...
No. Should we move on to one of the other ones and then come back to that?
Creative.
Everyone can hear us. Their microphones on. Can we have somebody else?
Hello, can anyone hear us?
Can you hear us? Okay.
Sorry, we can hear you, but there's a little bit of a delay, so it's a little slow right now. We were wondering if maybe we can part for later. We're trying to work out some tech difficulties.
Sure.
No problem. Okay, who was next?
Okay, so then we will move on to TC3. TC3 students representing the environment whose natural water flows have diminished as a consequence of human intervention. Someone's mic is on.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm going to start for TC3 talking about water security. I'm representing nature. So, humans use water resources irresponsibly and with very little concern for other species. You clear forests to grow crops which must be irrigated. You modify the flow of rivers when you build dams and levees. You take water from wet areas for use in dry areas. The filling of wetlands, the clearing of forests, and the construction of impervious roads has greatly increased runoff, causing erosion, siltation, and flooding. When you are done with the water, you return it to us laden with toxins that kill and deform us. The excess nutrient load leads to eutrophication, leaving the waterways devoid of life. Our preference would be for you humans to volunteer to agree to a voluntary extinction in the best interest of Earth's other species. If you're unwilling to agree to this, we propose a payment system for the valued ecological services that we provide to you. Our friends in Zamorano pointed out that the Earth's environment has the natural ability to purify water and it's worth money. When the Catskill region in upstate New York became degraded due to agriculture use, the water quality fell below standards. The state of New York investigated options to construct a water treatment facility to provide the city of New York with clean drinking water. The treatment plan would have cost between $6 to $8 billion with annual operating costs of $300 million. The state opted instead to restore the area at a fraction of the cost. This demonstrates that it's sometimes cheaper to restore and preserve an area rather than degrade it. We recognize that some actions are currently underway in Australia, such as the Snowy River Rehabilitation Project. It's shown definite improvements to the health of the river, including the removal of algae and sediments. It is expected to yield about $200 million US in benefits annually. There are many other efforts, large and small as well, going on. In Victoria, there's over 23,000 natural wetlands covering 600,000 hectares. There's 11,000 artificial wetlands covering over 170,000 hectares. The 400 high-value wetland systems within 30 systems across northern Victoria are home to many plant and animal species. While northern Victoria contributes significantly to Australia's economy through irrigated farming, it does so by degrading the water quality. It is estimated that an intact wetlands are worth $333 per hectare based solely on their water filtration and supply services. This means that when you consider the wetlands in Victoria alone, we are providing you with almost $200 billion worth of ecological services. Caleb?
Hello, my name is Caleb, and I would like to discuss our methodology. In order to maintain these valued ecological services, which is clearly in our collective best interest, water use by humans must be curtailed, and more water must be set aside to maintain natural ecosystem structure and function. One method to reduce demand is to incorporate the value of ecological services into the costs of water and food that is grown on irrigated land. We propose taxes and fees not as a punishment, but as an incentive to preserve the environment's important functions. Collected fees will help establish and maintain a water superfund. The United States Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, started a program called the Superfund to address abandoned hazardous waste sites across the United States. This program relies primarily on government funding and special accounts set up for parties responsible for hazardous sites. Parties that do not comply will face legal action and eventually be compelled to comply. The point is that companies responsible for the mess will pay to clean it up or have it cleaned up in the future. And with this in mind, an environmental superfund will be established for the state of Victoria. This will serve as an example of how the rest of Australia will eventually proceed. In cooperation with the Victorian Environmental Water Holder, or the VEWH, this fund will provide the VEWH with all money needed for mitigation of habitat destruction and ecological restoration. Collected funds may be put back towards the environment in a variety of ways. First and foremost, they will be used to repair human damage to the natural world, as well as preserve environmental water. Second, funds will be used to implement sustainable infrastructure such as grey water systems and better waste management. Drip irrigation methods will be used to improve agriculture. In addition, funds will be put towards contaminated water cleanup and hazardous waste management. Using this fund for advanced desalination technologies is not out of the picture, but humanity must first improve the areas it inhabits. Ellen?
Hello, I'm Ellen, and I'm going to try to motivate you to make the wise choice. We propose the following criteria that must be met in order to receive the services that we provide to you. We are willing to share, but only so much. In catchments where the environmental water reserves drop below 30% or more, the government will be asked to invest projects to recover additional water for the environment. However, it is the role of the VEWH to orchestrate the distribution of the Superfund resources. If species diversity within an area drops 30%, or if the percent natural habitat drops 30% of the baseline levels, humans must prevent further loss, if possible, ensure the recovery. This may be accomplished through habitat preservation, the construction of habitat corridors, or the restoration of natural ecosystems. Again, the Superfund resources will be used to make this happen. If stream systems' environmental flow decline by 30% or more, again, humanity must make an effort to fix them. Natural hydrological regimes must be maintained. The Australia Water Sensitive Urban Design, WSUD, improves runoff quality and needs to be implemented in every urban area. This will reduce the risk and impact of flooding while delivering an additional water supply. Stormwater management should be monitored both residential and industrial stormwater quality and quantity. Now, the environment recognizes Victoria's economic contributions to the wealth and health of Australia. And although some of our demands might be hard to swallow, ultimately you must obey the basic laws of nature and stop living beyond your means. We ask that you remember you are a part of the environment, not apart from it. Thank you.
Thank you, TC3. Now we will have microphones off for a general discussion.
So what do you think?
I think those Americans are nutcases.
Do you see the difference?
They're
Why?
talking about, well, basically what they're saying is we're going to tax you so we can save the environment. But the environment is there for our benefit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying we should wreck it, but what they're talking about, it's like in America, they preserve trees. It's okay to do that, but then you put people out of work, and they're going down the same road.
Do you see the cultural differences in the presentations and the attitudes? The best of the universities of North America, they present the view which is most common and makes sense for them and does not make sense for us. Maybe it's different mentality, maybe it's different culture, maybe it's different approach. They talk about money as the means to solve the problem. And the Zamorano, I think it's Zamorano, they had different, but they didn't propose much of the solution, but they talk about what's going on in their countries, in their regions. Well, when you say nutcase, use nicest synonym when you try to form a sound. I mean, we have a civil discussion. And also they are speaking, they are representing the environment. They're saying we are the environment and that's what we propose to you humans to do. Either go extinct, if you don't want to, do this for us. That's their approach to the issue, to convince us. And they're talking about Melbourne case. They're talking about Australia. The case that we had, the case study that we all had was the Australian case. So they said, we looked at the case, what we propose you to do is 1, 2, 3, as Victor said, tax it heavily, return the money. We can ask some questions.
We're just going to try and make up some time here. There's some really good thoughts and ideas that you guys have had TC3. And I think it's really applicable to a developed country such as Australia. But I'm interested to hear how you think that your plan could apply in a developing country where people are much poorer and perhaps don't have the capacity to pay in a way that you've suggested.
If you want to speak up, speak up. Just raise your
And if
sound
anyone's got
and
a question, in the meantime, while TC3 are thinking about their answer, just put a card up and we'll cue you in directly afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You put the card up and they cue your answer. Then they point who speaks up next. So just create one of the cards, draw the question mark or the comment sign and put it up. If you want to participate, if you want to just watch, it's your right. I mean, it's up to you. I would speak up, why not? Go ahead, the marker is up there. Take care of it yourself.
Can I move it?
Put a question mark there. Just draw it.
Other way.
Other way. In answer to the question about less developed
You can put it
poorer
in front of the
nations,
camera here, probably.
we believe that the development, especially urban development, should be limited or curtailed to a point where it makes sense for not only the natural environment but also for the economic environment of that country. Unfortunately, due to a lot of trade agreements and a lot of outside influence, largely by developed nations like the United States, Australia, and the EU, development commercially and urbanly is usually out of sync with the economics of a developing country.
Remember,
in other words, we come in and build a lot and use up a lot of your water instead of allowing your country to develop naturally and organically.
But it's still under everybody's best intentions to live within your means, regardless of your economic flow.
What are you saying? Are you saying that developed nations should help?
Developed nations
Developing nations pay?
Developed nations should definitely help poor nations to help pay for their water services and their ecological services, or simply be less wasteful in those countries.
It's also clear that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution for these issues, and it obviously needs to be taken in the context of the country or region which we're talking about.
Is there a mic on?
We're back. Yeah, it is.
Sorry about that, guys.
Was it a good answer? That's what we want to know. It was. All right, whereabouts are we up to?
Does anyone else have any questions for TC3? No?
Go ahead.
Okay, we might keep moving then. Earth users, not Earth users, sorry, Earth uni. As urban users, can you jump in now?
Yes, I think we have fixed our connection. Can everybody hear us?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, then we're ready. Well, hello, my name is Sam Hansen, and I'm from San Jose, Costa Rica, and talking about water for urban dwellers. Well, we have seen many global climate change consequences throughout the year, and each year they're becoming more apparent. Areas that once received plentiful rainfall are now suffering long periods of droughts. This year, freezing temperatures in southern United States, excessive precipitation and flooding in England, scorching temperatures in Australia, and drought in Brazil have once again brought climate change to the forefront of political agendas. In order to adapt to these changes that are going to affect everyone, we must evolve and search for possible solutions. Such solutions that we have discussed include the use of renewable energies and investment in state-of-the-art technologies directed by adequate public and private sustainable development entities. Right now, many cities and productive systems, such as large farm belts and industrial centers, have use massive amounts of water and energy. However, these systems can always become more efficient in order to minimize their hydric footprint. Investment in renewable energies will allow coastal cities to implement desalination plants and improve water recycling systems such as larger reservoirs and treatment plants. These technologies are expensive and must be pushed along by corresponding policies that benefit residents and companies that utilize these efficient technologies. An incentive system where business and residents contribute to recycling water and waste are rewarded with tax cuts and benefits will also help suppress the consequences of water scarcity. The government must target two groups with a long-term plan for water use and conservation: business and multiple family dwellings and single-family dwellings. For both groups, as well as for both new buildings as well as existing infrastructure, there must be sustainable building planning, blue architecture, and state-of-the-art technology. These technologies include use of chemical and biological filters for water reuse and maximum use potential, sustainable water-saving habits such as low-flow bathroom, laundry, and kitchen appliances, and use of biodegradable and eco-friendly products in order to maintain purity and quality of water. In single-family dwellings, even the use of dry toilet systems can be implemented, which eliminate the dependence on water and produce compost or productive waste. And now I'm going to give the word to my friend Daniel.
Well, hello, my name is Daniel Ordóñez, and I'm from Ecuador. If people in their home switch to better methods of water usage, there would be less necessity to ration water in the homes. The rationing of water, although effective, is a brusque change in the lifestyle of many and may be hard to adapt to. Having said this, it would be better if each house had a rainwater collection system that allowed them to collect rain and store it for usage in the garden or in toilet flushing. Obviously, these water savings measures will be costly, particularly for existing structures. This is where the government must step in and put into place incentives for implementation of the plan. The government can work with suppliers to determine the most cost-efficient manner to implement the change. The government can use incentives for those who comply with the regulations, including lower taxes and access to water in times of shortages first in line. As well, residents, buildings and companies that do not use adequate water-saving methods or exceed their corresponding volume could be penalized. The government must look into better methods of providing water so that there is more harmony in the ecosystem. Although the agricultural activities take up 60% of all water use, it is very necessary to look at the new methods to make water use more efficient, starting from the houses. For example, instead of simply depositing of clean water in the rivers, the municipalities can work on systems that allow the reuse of this water in the gardens and in agriculture. Forests are the source of aquifer regeneration in the ecosystem, and as such, there should be an investment in the protection of these natural areas. Other ideas include rainwater catchment systems, smart road and drainage planning for rainwater catchment and treatment, primary, secondary, and tertiary water treatment and recycling systems, planting trees and plants with less water needs, and use aquatic plants over lakes and bodies of water to reduce evaporation. In conclusion, if there is sufficient conservation of water and a development in new ways of helping people, plants and animals access water, the world will experience less shortages of water. The requires are an initial investment which may be costly, but in the long run allow for the constant availability of water for all. No matter where, water is important, and it's time to actively seek out manners of preserving and providing water. Thank you.
We're already on.
Thank you. All right, now we'll take a couple of minutes to discuss with all microphones off.
So what do we think?
Oh, is that cats maybe?
How it functions? It does. All the construction sites have this plastic booters. These are disposable dry bags. Biodegradable. They call them biodegradable. So they don't use water. They use biodegradable material layers by layers to compost the waste. And there is actually lots of research which proves that that's the most efficient way. But come on, please. We don't want you to. Okay, take care. Make sure you write your name. Write your name. Send it. Send. Okay, take care. Get well.
Hi, University. Thanks a lot for that. I had a question for you guys, and we were wondering from a developing perspective, how's the water infrastructure in the major cities there maintained, in particular the sewage system, etc., in the big cities?
Well, there's one company called Acueductos y Alcantarillados that control all the flow of water, be it drinking or wastewater. And in truth, the infrastructure is very poor. They have a little bit of maintenance, but lots of the water goes to the rivers. And
it's universal, right?
4% is treated. 4% of all the water going through the city system is treated. So
you can put it. You can give it here. It's closer.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Zamorano as well. We'll pass it on to you now.
Closer. We need to close it to the camera.
Hi, my name is Mark. I want to ask you if you have specific examples in which your proposal works.
You need to look at
Water collection. Oh, yeah, a water collection of rain.
Well, on campus we have a few water catchment systems. Obviously, the water catchment is going to work in places with more pluviosity. Wherever there's more rainfall, we're going to have more efficient catchment systems. So,
do you want me to leave the door open for
droughts
you?
or very long dry spells, the water catchment systems might not be a very good option. However, wherever there's storms, I mean, there's storms every couple of years, and if we have proper drainage in terms of street road planning, city infrastructure, and even rooftops of all the buildings, I mean, the larger area we have with catchment system means the larger amount of water we'll be able to capture. And at Earth we capture rainwater, but like I said, it's only a small fraction of what we use. However, if everybody starts catching as much rainwater as possible, exponentially it's going to add to the amount of water we're going to have available in the future. So it's kind of just a step in the solution. It's not an ultimate solution. Thank you.
So we'll go first to Hong Kong and then to TC3 for a question. Sorry. So Hong Kong, can you ask your question now?
Turn on the mic.
Hello, I'm Lawrence. I would like to ask, so you have mentioned something like the government is giving some incentive policies to the residents so that they can use more eco products. And I was wondering whether, how common is it for the local people to use the eco products, and how is the government going to encourage people to use more products like that? Thank you.
Well, in terms of giving incentives, I think that the more sustainable we are, the bigger the more if we recycle our waste productively, then that should be enough of a service that for the government to give us some sort of tax cut or reward. For example, if one municipality recycles 80% of all the waste they have so that they don't have so much going to the trash, to the landfill, then that could also be a tax cut for that municipality or give benefits. Or everybody's trying to be more sustainable and save water, so let's say if you use the more natural or organic or biodegradable products you use, the more rights you have to cleaner water. But if you're using all these agrochemicals and you're polluting water systems and aquifers, then maybe you might not have access to these resources. So we think that the more sustainable lifestyle you live, the more right you have to have access to these amounts of pure, clean water, and other things as well. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Thank you.
Not really.
Okay, over to TC3 for your question, and then we'll move along.
Thank you. In the U.S., zoning and building permits are the largest obstacle that we have for reducing our water use that you would describe as bathroom use, which is about 25% of all urban water use. In Costa Rica, what are the largest obstacles to changing your sanitation and solid waste recycling? Is it actual infrastructure, or is it legal problems, policy?
Hi, hello, my name is Diego Delgado, I'm from Costa Rica, and I believe that the problems in Costa Rica are that they are not stipend to build the infrastructure to reuse those water and then go to the river, and they believe that the culture is a problem too, because they have the mind here is like a really humid tropic, and it rains all the days, so they don't care. They don't take care about that. Thanks.
Also, just to add to that as well, there's not enough funding for these kind of projects. There's not enough. There's not enough money for this.
All right, thanks for that. FU. Can we hear from Hong Kong now on the social issues from a developing world perspective?
Your turn, guys.
Hi, I'm Alice from Hong Kong IELL, and I'm going to briefly talk about what the main water security issues are in developing world. So we believe that water security addresses three main issues in developing countries and regions. The first one is the accessibility of clean water. So in developing countries, not everyone has access to clean water for survival and sustainable development. And my classmates, they are going to provide a case of Philippines. So they don't, the water expense is very high, and not everyone can afford that. The second issue we are going to talk about is the water conservation. So it's mainly about water pollution and the conflicts of water sharing. And we will also give a case about the conflict between Hong Kong and mainland China. And finally, we believe there is another issue about water-related disasters and risks. So, for example, flood, droughts, landslides, erosion, waterborne diseases, and etc.
Okay, it's my turn. I'm Desmond from Hong Kong IED, and I'm going to introduce to you a concept called the water security matrix. And the water security matrix actually is about the index to measure the water stress and the coping capacity of a country. The water stress means that the demand of water exceeds the actual water supply level. When the actual supply level is higher than the demand of water, the country is suffering a great water stress. And the coping capacity, it's quite obvious that it's the ability for a country to deal with water-related issues. For example, in some developed countries, or taking an example like Hong Kong, is a really developed place, and we are having high water stress and we have a high coping capacity. And under these circumstances, we don't have a lot of water problems. But however, it is quite controversial because we buy water from China. And taking an example of some developing countries like India, is having a high water stress while it has a low coping capacity. And it has water crisis there. And for example, in a river in India, it's called Ganges. The largest river in India, there is always floods because of its low water coping capacity. And we'd like to raise your awareness on the coping capacity of countries instead of just dividing all their developing or not developing countries. Thank you.
Okay, and my name is Ranelyn, and I'm actually a Filipino, I'm not Chinese. So I'm going to provide an example of this water security issue in the Philippines. Actually, there would be some days that there would be no access to water for long periods during the day, and it's not even known to us. It will just come all of a sudden. Like the next day we'll find out there's no water. So what we'd have to do is go to the main, like a well, and then they need to fetch water. So it really affects how we, run in our daily lives. And that place isn't even a province. It's actually close to the city. It's close to Manila. So up to this day, this still happens. And even last year, according to the National Water Security Index, the Philippines performed really poorly, just 2 out of 5. And so the problems are, of course, poor infrastructure. Up till now, I don't really think that the government have been really investing a lot into this, especially that a lot of floods happen in the Philippines. So floods have really damaged implantations of the water system. So there's this really inappropriate use of funding, and of course Philippines is also a corrupted country. So you can see where the problem comes from and also where the solution is. So what we try to do, the best that the citizens could do, is just to save loads of water. We just try to save a lot of water in those big tubes or save bottles of water in case this would happen. So that's all the solution I see.
I'm Curtis from Hong Kong IED. So I'm sure I'm going to present you with another case in China, which is Guiyang. Guiyang is one of the poorest provinces in China, and then due to its special geographical features, so almost half of its water evaporates because of the rocky terrains there, and also even though there are heavy rain, but those water is not the same as usable water, and more importantly, even though there are much water, Guiyang does not and never will have enough water storage capacity to satisfy the demand of the growing population and economy. So this is not only a problem of geographical reasons, but more of societal and economical reasons.
Hi, I'm Joanna. Given the water problem in Guiyang, the following suggestions are made accordingly. First, a better monitoring, forecasting, and early warning system is needed to reduce the severity of drought. Current water resource extraction rate and demand level should be assessed, so the government can respond to the situation as early and quickly as possible. To cater for a natural water shortage, cities should invest in technology and systems that can save water, such as improving water productivity system in industry and setting up more efficient immigration system. Setting infrastructure like reservoirs to increase water supply is not a sustainable way, as the main cause of the problem comes from excessive water use. Last but not least, the nation should set up a focused management, as there are many stakeholders in managing water resources. Interest can come in the way. Therefore, to consider the needs of each user's right, a single water affairs bureau is needed. That's all.
Hello, I'm Roy, and we also looked at the case of Melbourne, which somebody else has covered earlier, and Melbourne suffers from natural disasters. Strangely enough, it suffers from both droughts and flooding. And one of the problems it has is that whatever solution the government provides, it sometimes gets railroaded because the next government will not implement the proposals that the previous government suggested. And so, as Joanna just said, there should be like a water bureau, and what we thought was that it could be democratically elected, and that would be the long-term measure, to take the solutions out of the hand of the government, which constantly changes, into the hands of the people who have to live with the consequences of whatever action is taken. And as a short-term measure, we thought maybe you should install water meters so that people only actually pay for what they use for. That's it.
And hi, I'm Vicky. So actually, we can learn a lot from the developed countries. Like in Melbourne, there are several measures to help secure water resources. Like the first one is about food goal modernization and the north-south pipeline.
when we say football modernization, it means modernizing the catchment area to save more water. And as for the north-south pipeline, it helps save water for the irrigation because it's about building pipelines from the areas that have more water resources to those areas that have lack of water. And the second measure is about using the desalination plant to provide more water. And the use of it is more is similar to the first one. Is about saving more drinking water because the plants can turn the salt water into the drinking water, and they can remove salt. The third measure is about water pricing, and it is proven to be effective because it can force people to use less water. And the last measure is about building more rainwater tank, and so as to so that people can help recycle the water by storing used water or raindrops. Yeah. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, guys. Now we might all switch our microphones off for a local discussion.
Except Victor, I couldn't hear him. So I was asking questions to Victor.
Maybe. Perfect. You got a little green. Oh, Earth.
Yeah. It's a comment. It's a comment,
The university, the Tamara University is the Ivy League of Latin America. So that's why we see students from Bolivia, from Peru, and other countries. And also the fact that they don't speak English means that education at some countries. Those universities located in Kosovo.
But there's a connection problem.
For the Earth Charter International, the non-profit
Oh,
organization
Do we say now?
I shouldn't point it.
Have you on
So
the
do,
list?
They can see
They
me.
have lots of, just says us. They have lots of customers.
do we turn it on and
No,
ask? Or someone
They
else?
speak English as well.
Oh, comment! Comment!
We don't have a question, so Zomorano has got a comment, so we pass straight on to you.
Well, hi everybody. We talk here for the government problems, and I agree with our partners of Concord. Yeah, it's about the government. Don't help these kind of problems. That's too much, because in our countries there is something like the public word. It's not about it's like a word that told here my partner in Bolivia, because the word is not like for something. It's like you can bring them free to the people, and it's kind of you have to help the people about the. You don't have to sell this kind of things. Yeah, it's only a thought. Yeah.
Apparently we also thought Americans are napkins.
Earth University has a comment as well. On to you.
Question, Liga, thank you. Hi, we have a question. I am Lothar from Ecuador. I have a question for Hong Kong. Do people in Hong Kong have to pay for water, and how much do they pay for it?
Do we have to think about it first?
Actually, we have to pay for our water, and there are two different prices. For residential users, a price, and for business users, another price. And the way they charge us is, I don't know the exact rate, but if they use for residential use, if we use more, the charges goes up. But for economic use, if the company uses more, the rate goes down, and that's the way they charge us.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, there are some actually that there's a fixed rate, probably like your rent is this much, and then plus maybe 100 or 150 or 200 Hong Kong dollars, and that's including electricity and water already. So it really also it differs. Like for me, if we do it by water meter, and I can tell you it's estimated. I mean, we try to save as much as we can. It's below 1,000 Hong Kong dollars, I guess, if you really want an exact figure. Yeah.
Thank you.
TC3, on to you.
Transnational rivers can cause international water stress. What role can international groups play to make water access more equitable?
The last shadow is okay.
Could you rephrase that, please?
Okay.
They have a connection problem.
Okay. Okay, I know there is a last shuttle bus, right?
Sure. We were wondering what role international groups could help contribute to the water access problem, because some rivers flow across international borders.
It's like we buy water and it's a problem.
Oh yeah. Actually, I think that international groups can act as a middleman between two countries. and they have, I think that I suggest, in my opinion, this is my opinion only, international groups can set a norm rate for the price of water if they trade between countries, and programs shall be held by international groups to cooperate to neighboring countries, for example, like two neighboring countries to have joint projects to build some dams or to build a reservoir, a big reservoir, and to share the water. And it's the role for international groups to do as cooperate, as someone who cooperates between two countries, like someone who is not belonging to any countries, and to cooperate with the countries. And that's all. Thank you.
Five minutes of just general discussion between everyone. So if you can put up your comment or question card, and then we'll throw it over to whoever. So does anyone have any general points to talk about based on what we've discussed so far?
I think we're getting closer to the end of the video conference. I know many of you have to go because there is a bus minute or whatever. So if you need to go, you get up and go. Alright? No offense, just get up and go. I'll stay until the end and I'll explain everything if needs to be explained, but you can go anytime you go. If you would like to stay, stay. Okay?
Based
Up
on
to you.
something that Hong Kong, and I think a couple of you have mentioned, is that Victoria does actually employ a lot of the methods that you have suggested. So things such as metering individual houses to monitor how much people use, and so that people actually pay for what they use. We, as you probably would know, have a desalination plant, which at this point hasn't been used. We have grey water or water treatment facilities as well. We have a lot of technology that we employ to help us manage our water system, yet we still at times have very strict water restrictions and can be under water stress. So while everything we've discussed and some of the ideas that have been thrown out